Hi, everyone. It's Cricket Barrientos at Sounds of Autism, and I'm here with Spectrum Talks and Tips International co-host Dr. Ania Khan, a clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, speech therapist, and more. And she's all the way in Pakistan. Hi, Dr. Khan. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I know that you have some interesting information for us today. I'm excited to hear more. And be sure, everybody that's watching this, be sure to check out Dr. Khan's Spectrum Talks and Tips International post on our YouTube page under Sounds of Autism with quotes. We have over 35 podcasts on there with different community partners. So thank you, Dr. Khan. I'm going to go ahead and let you start your program, and good luck.
Okay. So today our topic is that already opened that stimming, and I think as a mother and you observed this topic already in the children, and we were discussing a lot of stimming before our discussion. So today the topic is stimming, and basically stimming or stim, it is a kind of you could say a self-indulgence activity a child is doing, and there are a lot of circumstances when the child is doing. So stimming is self-stimulatory behavior. It is repetitive behavior. It could be body movement, singing, hand clapping, rocking body. It could be any kind of sound. It could be even rhymes, rhyme, singing, listening to the same playlist again and again. So there are different type of stimming. Stimming, and it is different for everyone. So basically, it's a self-stimulatory behavior which is repetitive. It could be body movement, and it might also include hand and finger mannerism. For example, finger flicking and hand flapping. Unusual body movement, for example, rocking back and forth while sitting and standing. And posturing, for example, holding hands or finger out for at an angle, arcing, even looking to some place at sideway could be also a stimming. So there's a little bit like I'm already discussing about types and different ways that it could be, or different, you could say, where we could see in different forms. Visual stimulation, for example, looking at something sideways, watching an object to spin, flattering, turning on and off the fan. And when you turn on the fan, then there's a specific kind of sound. So children might like that sound also. Repetitive behavior, for example, opening and closing doors and flickering switches. That is a very common thing. All mother always all the time say me, my child, whenever my child go anywhere, he turn on all the light. So it's not even about the lights, it's the sound of the switch, or the movement which is coming from that from that switch. And uh, chewing or mouthing object, it could be also comes a lot of time. Mothers say that our child is putting their shirt in their mouth, and sometimes they're saying that their sleeves, and they're putting non-eatable object in their mouth. So it might be also stimming. Listening to same song or noise over and over again. So like I already told you that it could be a song, it could be a list, and anything again and again, playing with the same toy again and again. So there are different forms of that. Okay, let's get to some example. It could be biting fingernails, trailing your hair around your fingers, crackling your knuckles and other joints, drumming your fingers, tapping your pencil, jiggling your foot, whistling, rocking, flapping hands or flicking slipper finger, bouncing, jumping, twirling, pacing and walking on a tiptoe, even doing something like that. Could they make what do you say? Pacing the table. It could also be a form. Pulling hair, repetitive words and phrase. Even this and this. This could be also a kind of stimming. You need to think about that. There are a lot of children who pick their skin. So this is also a form of stimming. Like I told you, repeated phrase and words. People used to say that they're imitating, or mothers sometimes say that I'm saying something and the child is repeating me back. So it means that the child can talk now. Sometimes it is stimming, or sometimes it is the kind of imitation the child is doing. So functional talk is different than stimming. Rubbing the skin or scratching, like I already told you, repetitive blinking, all the time like this. It could be also form of stimming. Staring at light rotating objects such as ceiling fan, licking, rubbing, or stroking particular type of object. It could be particular type of metal, particular type of cloth piece, or texture of the cloth. Sniffing at people's or object. Some children are doing this. They smell whenever they go somewhere. Even I was working with a child, and the mother used to say that the child is all time smelling my hair. The child smell hair and looks sometimes very awkward to me why he's doing that. So even sometimes child like to play with long hairs also. So it's their interest, whatever give them stimulation, whatever give them fun. that child is doing. Rearranging object, this is also a form of stimming. Lining a lot of things, that is a stimming. Child loves to do that. Doing one activity again and again, that is kind of stimming. Watching something again and again, that is a kind of stimming. So there's a lot of stimming. Those repetitive behavior which you are talking about, our child is doing this, these are actually form of stimming. See, I over here you it's a kind of a picture which I edit over here, and these are the reason why the child is doing that stimming. What could be the reason? Because the child might want to take your attention. We will talk about the reason why the child is doing stimming, but over here let's talk about few things because it's a chart and I think it's very clear. And so when he's hungry, in pain, bored, afraid, care for someone, then the child start doing this. Uncomfortable, tired, mild, thirsty, sleepy, lonely, upset, don't care. When the child is curious, when the child is in fun, it could be swear also. Okay, the child might be lost. The child might be shy, lazy, careful, busy, hurt, excited, sick. Maybe the child feel discouraged, angry, confused, embarrassed, ashamed, missing, homesick, frustrated. So it could be anything. Maybe the child might feel silly, disappear, proud, surprised, worried, annoyed, funny, and well. It could be anything. So there are different ways why the child is doing this, and it might be attention-seeking behavior also. It might be the child want to take your attention, or the child want to tell you something, or it might be the child want you to child want to divert your attention from something. So child might also start doing that stimming activity. Why child and teenagers just stim? Because teenagers also stim, and we have to think about that whenever we talk about autism, ADHD, neurodiversity, and other whatever the names are, learning disabilities, intellectual disability. That does not go when the child grow up. When the child is teenager, when the child is adult, this situation and this thing stays with the child. So why the child is doing that? Because the child is managing their emotions. Like I told you about all the emotions, all of the different circumstances or different emotions or different feelings. Why the child could do that? Anxiety. The child might want to manage anxiety. Might want to manage his anger, fear, excitement. When the child is calmed down, or the child want to get calmed down, then the child would start doing that. Divert focus to their attention on the stim. And sometimes when we are working with children, and they don't want to do your activity, then they start doing the stimming also. So maybe the mother said that whenever I want to do ask something from the child don't listen, they start doing their own thing. So the child doing stimming because the child want to get their attention from something else, or they're ignoring you so that they don't want to think what you're talking about. Okay, produce a calming change in their body because it is producing a calming change in their body. So uh, okay, I would like to ask you something. Do you think it's bad or good stimming?
I think it's needed. Like Landon
Exactly.
stims,
That
yes.
is.
And it's removing the stress and anxiety out of his body. So when he's having a bad day or he's overwhelmed with sensory, too much information, it's almost like allowing your computer to delete files that are not necessary or to archive files somewhere so that in his brain he has more room to be able to think and process information. Otherwise, if he's overstimulated, he is
And
it could
I
trigger
just read about
behaviors.
this. I just read about it. If a therapist is stopping stimming, then that therapist is not a good therapist. You need to change your therapist.
I
You
agree with you.
need to change your therapist because when these things are going on, so you need to be careful about that. Okay.
Dr. Khan, can I ask you? So, what if they're redirecting the stimming to something else? Do you
We
think
will talk
that's a good
about this. We
idea?
will talk about this, how to redirect that,
Oh,
because it's the whole presentation, and you will see at the end. We are trying to manage them, and when it's good, when it's dangerous, when it's harmful. So, what are the points we need to think about that? So, okay, like like you told me that it's manage overwhelming sensory information, oversensitive or sensory information. It could be hyperactivity or hypersensitivity, or hypersensitivity. Reduce sensory overload. Under sensitive stimming can stimulate underactive senses. For example, other senses are not working. So a child want to understand the situation completely. So the child might start doing stimming. Avoid certain activities or expectation. Then the child do this also. When the child don't want to listen to you, maybe, or the child don't like this activity, maybe the child don't want to fill your demand, so my child might do that. And adapt to an unfamiliar environment. That is the most form of stimming, because parents Whenever parents ask me that we don't know how to take our child to some place because they don't feel comfortable over there, what to do? We cannot take our child to some mall, some relative, when the relative come to our home and stuff like that. So the point is that if this is the situation, then you need to familiarize your child with that place, so the anxiety go away, the novelty go away, the overwhelming sensation what is over there, curiosity. So the child might know everything and the child might feel comfortable over there. So that's why the child is doing stimming over there. And mother also say that whenever we take child to some place, then child do this kind of activity, and we feel a little bit ashamed of this thing. So instead of doing things, why don't you give something familiarity to the child? So I think that is a good technique to work with your child in that way. Okay. So these are some good thing about stimming, because it helps child to a lot of things, because there's a lot of sensory data coming from everywhere, and when you're autistic you don't understand that how to manage these emotions. So stimming is helping them out to uh, a child feel comfortable. And I'm working with someone, and that person start laughing, and she was feeling ashamed of that I'm not taking this thing serious and stuff like that. So I asked that, because she's an adult neurodivergent girl, and asked that, do you think about that later on? She said that yes, I do think about that later on. But at that time it gave me some comfort zone when I start laughing. So it is different for everyone. Okay, let's see, but talk about when it's harmful, because we need to understand that it could be harmful and you need to intervene in these kind of stimuli. For example, other repetitive behavior can cause physical harm. These behaviors include head banging. You need to be careful because that might damage the cranial of the child, some nerve damage. It could be anything. So you need to be careful about it. If a child starts stimming, then you need to put the these helmet, because it's activity when the child is doing that. Then we put the helmet on the child head. Punching or biting, self biting or biting others, you need to stop that behavior immediately. Because if the child is biting, then you can give them sensitive, because there's a solution for everything you want to ask someone. If you start looking for these things, and if the child pinching, then why don't we give them the ball, small ball in the hand of the child? Excessive rubbing or scratching at the skin, that is a kind of a stimming, and you need to work on that, because it could create a lot of problems. For example, the child might get some kind of infection and something like that. So you need to work on that. Pickiness and scab or sores, swallowing dangerous item. So when the child is putting something in their mouth, you need to take it out, because it might be a small puzzle piece, anything it could be, and the child might take it inside, and it could be a dangerous situation over here as well. What are the other behaviors? Excessive self rubbing and self scratching, excessive nail biting, head banging, hand biting, ear clapping, slapping or hitting oneself. These are self injurious behavior, and we have to look into these things. Like I said, that don't allow your child to hit yourself, hit a parent, a therapist, and don't allow your child to hit himself either. You need to work on these things, because if your child is hitting you and you're not looking to that thing, even hitting himself, what you're going to do when the child is adult, what you're going to do with that, how you're going to control that thing then? Because the child will grow up, the child might have double or triple energy than you, like physical stronger than, what you're going to do about that? And like you're talking about management thing, if the child is going to school, what you're going to do about it? So you need to think on this, and there's always a way to direct these things. Like I was working with a child, and he liked to do these things. So the child was I'm almost 8 to 9 years old, and he have a lot of sensory issue. Like he was a kind of hypersensitive kind of a child. And when I was doing his therapy, I have to turn off the light. I would not look directly to him, because looking could be overwhelming too. And like I was the light was off, the room was calm, there was nobody was coming over there. Secondly, the temperature was also fine, no, not very cold, not very hot. And when the light go away, like for example, when light go, then you turn on the generator. When it was like that, I was not doing, because the child was start crying at that moment. So I was just avoiding these things. So that was the, and with the passage of time, the child was able to, even if you start talking loudly in front of that child, the child might start crying and doing like that. So it was, but with the passage of time, when we start working with the child, and then the child adapt to certain things. But in the start, we have to work on these things, because this could be a dangerous thing. How stimming affect? Let's talk about that now. It affects child attention to the outside, because A lot of time parents would say that we call the name of the child and the child is not listening to us. That is the first sign. First sign a parent would say. This is always a sign parent said this to me. We're calling his name, he's not looking to us. And just because of this thing, the parents are do a lot of tests, audiometry, eye test, brain scanning, that the child is not listening to us, and they put a lot of money over there, coming to one place, and you're putting your child into a lot of harmful waves, by doing the different kind of scans. So people don't understand, parents don't understand that it's just some kind of, the child might be ASD, autistic, or it could be something else also, neurodivergent child. So but streaming is mostly coming these things, or but now there's a because we don't have definition of the disorder by book, so we cannot say that these things are absolute. So like attention, it cannot give you the attention. If child cannot give you attention, then definitely the child is not going to learn. That is the reason the child don't know the emotions. The child know the emotions, but he don't know the emotional expression, facial expression, talking. Because if you want a child to talk, then you have to make sure that the child look at you. The child know how to make a sound when it's a, o, e. How is going to know that how to produce this sound? Even you have to put your hand of the child over here, so the child start feeling you. It's more like that. Self-injurious behavior, which could be dangerous at any time. Ability to learn, like I already told you, if a child is too much indulged into himself, then the child is not going to learn anything. Communicate. Child is not going to communicate because child is doing that activity when the child is overwhelmed. Child don't like that thing. I mean, so we have word for this. If you dislike something, we can say that we don't like this. No, it could be anything. But child is not doing this. Instead, child is start into self indulgence behavior. So it is hinders the ability of communicate. Socialization. If the child is talking to himself, child all the time, even I would say that using mobile all the time is also a stigma. I would say it like. What do you think? Is it so? Using gadgets, I would say that. Playing video games, why not? Those children who are doing this and they're not talking to other people, and they're not socializing either. And emotional expression, like I told you, that emotional expression, not in the sense of no the facial, but how to express themselves, that I'm sad, I'm angry, and to name those emotions. The more child able to communicate these emotions, even we have to show them the facial expression, smiley face, sad face, happy face. We have to make these faces so the child start learning his emotions. So let's discuss a little bit other implications, that how it's going to affect the child. Autistic children and ADHD also. It could be teenager also. Streaming isn't necessarily a bad thing as long it does not hurt you, but where it's affecting the child. Self injuries. If the child flicks their finger near their eyes, something go inside their eyes, or maybe the child start doing this thing, because usually child do these things when they want to communicate with other, or they want to relate with that person. Then they're doing the same activity which they are doing with themselves. So it might be dangerous for other person also, or maybe if it's a social place and that people don't like that thing. Self play. If a child is all the time playing with himself with the one toy, the child is not going to learn anything else. For example, the play skill is very important. It's going to teach you a lot of things. That is the reason we use play therapy. When we are working with children, everything goes away. It's the play based activity we do with the child all the time. So self play. If the child is only indulged with the self play, the child is not going to play with other people. If the child is not playing with other people, he don't know how to formulate a group, how to create a friendship, and how to uh, uh, you know express like or dislike in a group, and how to manage those emotions when pressure is coming on you, performance pressure and stuff like that. So it's more like that. And there's a lot of group rules, social rules you are playing in, you learn in play thing. Then the classroom, if the child is too much absorbed in his mobile phone, or in pencil even, the pencil, or doing line thing and stuff like that, and drawing something even, the child want to draw all the time. So if the child is too much absorbed into that, the child is not going to listen what the teacher is telling, and what is in front of his eyes. So it's more you're focusing your selection attention to one point where you're not able to see what is in the environment. Okay. So if same thing happen in the classwork, how are you going to get something when you don't understand the concept? Or teacher asks you a question, what you're going to do? You might be feel that I did not feel good about, because it was some kind of disrespect for me that I did not able to answer the question. So there are a lot of things which a child going to feel if the child is not able to present in the class and socialize as well. For example, if a child is too much involved in a fence or a fancy thing in the ground and the child is not playing with that children, so there's a lot of bad implication in the sense that I would say negative, that the child might be get overweight, the child is not playing with other children, the child don't know how to use his all senses, how to use his body, how to use a lot of things, and how to socialize with other people, how to make friendship, and how to show emotion by friendship. So these are important things. If the child is too much doing these things, so the child is going to get affect. These things are affect. Okay, can stimming be controlled? Like I told you already. So let's talk about this. Management may be needed if the answer is yes to these questions. It's not about control, it's about management. Okay, what we are going to do, let's see what are the questions. Has stimming caused social isolation? Check. Is stimming disruptive at school? Check. Because if the child is too much humming, the child is playing sound bell and stuff like that, and child is doing like that, so you know I'm throwing a different kind of thing, you know and stuff like that. Child is doing this, I have seen my children doing this, that's I learned from them. So these are different things, doing all the time that thing and humming and stuff like that. So if it's is it in disruptive in school? Does stimming affect the ability to learn? Because stimming is going to affect not just a way to learn the communication, the language, other social things as well, other skills as well. Does stimming cause problem for other family members? This is a question. I mean, sometimes everybody, if a person is ill in your house and the child is making a lot of loud noises, and the child is opening the door, opening and closing the door, opening and closing the door, and opening and closing the cupboards, the sound, then the other person might could get hurt, or they could get some issue also. Or maybe if the child is putting the child want to play with water all the time, the child might put all the the stuff in his and start doing a lot of things and disrupting the property of the room of the sibling. It might cause problem for them. Is stimming destructive or dangerous? And we need to think about that. I mean, playing with fire, playing with pointy object, playing with glass, it could be dangerous. You have to think about that. So if the question to this is yes, then we need to talk about management. Okay, tips for management. Let's talk about that. It may be better to manage stimming rather than attempt to completely control it. When working with children, the goal should be to encourage self-control. It should be not controlling them. Okay, you cannot control a child. I mean, how can you going to do that? It's not a remote control robot. It's not a TV that you have a remote control for that and you start, uh, because to be very honest, I have seen parents doing that. Because one day I was talking to a parent, he said that whenever I asked that child to give me that, but the child is not giving me the bag. But she did. We were all the teacher was sitting there, and there was one other parent was also sitting there. That was not his parent, and she did that in front of the whole class. I mean, the whole meeting. Child was not. Why you want your child to feel ashamed of, but he cannot do that? I mean, you might have helped the child, if that when we are working with a child is not doing, but we do, we hold the hand of the child and we help him to do that activity, so that you both are happy. We have to think about solutions. So instead of controlling the child, why not work on self control, how to do that? It's easier to manage stimming if you can figure out the reason behind that. Like, in the start we're talking about a lot of things. What could be the reason? We talk about emotions and stuff like that. So we need to start thinking about why the child is doing stimming. Behavior is a form of communication. Like I told, it's always a form of communication. There's always a reason for a behavior. Either it's impulsive, the person start because stimming is impulsive action, impulsive reaction to anything. So the impulsive act a child start doing without thinking about anything, and there's a motive behind that stimming or motive behind that impulsive action. Then the thing is that if you can figure out what is the reason behind it, behavior is a form of communication, then understand what a person was stimming and what is trying to tell you. Over here, I would like to mention a case, because that child was trying to tell something, not tell something. The child was trying to, you could say, diverting the behavior of their parents. The point was that there was a mother and he have a child with autism, and the point was that first thing, the child was with autism, then she was a doctor, and what she did, she have some quarrel with some, she was not comfortable with her in-laws, and she have some kind of issue with her husband also. So she was having a hospital, she was running a hospital. So there was a room where she kept her child, her son and daughter both. And the child was quite a manageable child. I mean, the child could go to normal school also. I mean, not just go to therapy. I'm asking about not inclusive school. I'm talking about the school with the children where other children are going. Because I don't like the term normal actually. So the child was like that. If you push the limit of that child, so just because of putting that child into the in the room, it was more like that, that you're forcing a lot of things, because just because of that reason, her sister was also adopted a lot of things which was not her behavior. I mean, people would see her, and they might understand that the girl might also have some kind of problem. So the parents said that one day we got a call, and we said that we want to talk to you something in private. Okay, I said, what is this? Then she said that my child is acting very strange. I think something is happening with his child over here. And I said that, what are you talking about? She said that, I said that, we have cameras over everywhere. So we are very vigilant what is going around in our whole scenario. We are very keen about these things. If you think that the child might, somebody might try to abuse that child or stuff like that. So then the father also came, next thing, the father also came. And in during conversation, we came to get this idea that first they were saying that the child is hitting his sister. Then they said that whenever we both are fighting, they did not say this. They said that the child started doing, remove his pant, and he started doing some kind of act. And I have seen that act in a small poem also. From there, I get this idea that yes, this is the reason why the child was doing that. So that was in a poem also. So the child was doing that thing. And when the child do that thing, then everybody get alert. Oh, what happening? What's happening? What you're doing? So the attention of everybody will get toward that child, and they will left doing what they were doing. So with the passage of time, and we start talking about a lot of things, then they give this idea. Just a minute. Okay. So what was the point? The point over there, there's, like I already told you that their mother and father was not having a good time with each other, and they were fighting with each other all the time. But the point was that the father was away for 2 3 years. So the fight was maybe on phone and stuff like that. When the father came, then there was fight every day in their home. So the child might need to have something to do something, so that the parents stop fighting. So that was a behavior which was coming out of that thing. So whenever you are looking toward this thing, then we have to keep a lot of things in our mind, instead of accusing other people of the thing which they did not commit. Because I told her that whatever you are saying, whatever you are doing, we have cameras everywhere, and I am very vigilant about these things. I don't allow even a child to, like, you might know me. I talk about this thing also, that even I don't allow anyone to hug a child and take a child in his lap and stuff like that. So I'm very vigilant about these things, and I don't allow these things. So that was the whole point, that's how it was coming from that side. So we have to see that what is the reason, what is the behavior, so that we start working on that thing or that causes. Evaluate the situation just before stimming start. What appears to be triggering the behavior, what happens, just like I told you, and I give you the example over here so that you get this idea that what is the whole scenario. Mhm. Tips: do what you can. I think I have missed one slide. No, that's better. Do what you can to eliminate or reduce the triggers. Lower stress, provide a calming environment, turn off the light, turn off the sound, take the child to some other room, and you can have a dark room, sensitive room at your home, that fancy light in that room, and the child toy over there. So it will be a good activity. Try to stick to a routine for daily tasks. And one of the main cause of stimming is and anxiety is when the child don't know what is going around his life. So the more routine you set for your child, the more the child is able to do his activity by himself, because he knew that what I have to do after that. So schedules are very important. Encourage acceptable behavior and self control. What could be self control and acceptable behavior? Self control could be, you can give a toy in child hand. There's a lot of sensory toys. Why not you give your child that toys? Yeah, and remember, do you remember that sensory box I show you in the last session? That is a very
Yeah.
good activity to help your child to learn so many things and to help a child to be involved with you. So that is a positive activity also, because you're working with his fine motor skill, attention, stuff like that. So encourage acceptable behavior. I mean, few things could be acceptable, but you can direct them also. For example, a child, if a child know ABC, child is very good with ABC because singing songs, singing rhymes. Why not you give something spelling thing with the child? Because with singing, phonics came with phonics, reading came with reading, writing came. So we can direct these things also. Avoid alter, avoid punishing that behavior. This action could be frustrating. If you stop one stemming behavior without addressing the reason behind it, it's likely to be replaced by another one, and it might be dangerous also. Teach an alternative behavior that helps to meet the same needs. Like for example, a child mother asked me that my child is turning on the light, on and off the light all the time. So I said that there you can go and find a small switch in the market. You know, single switch, uni switch, which is called uni switch, and child can help play with them. Yeah, so that is a good activity. So you can replace it by that if you think that the child is creating a lot of noises in the room, in the house. Teach an alternative behavior that can help to meet for example, hand flapping can be replaced with squeezing a stress ball, other fine motor activity. Why not do the string activity like I showed you last time, string and cardboard activity, so that child might learn something also. Play-Doh is a very good thing to give it to your child and stuff like that. So art is a very also good activity. So it could be anything that you want to avoid certain things and to replace that thing also. Looking for source and direct. People with autism also start stimming in response to a trigger, spot it, and you can intervene with a solution that doesn't involve stimming. Common stimming triggers include loud noise, strong scent, bright light, change in routine, strong emotions including excitement, fear, sadness, or happiness. So just look toward the source and then we can redirect that source. Let's talk about recommendation. Okay, these are few things that we can do to that could act like a guideline. Okay, these are 10 steps. Identify trigger behavior of streaming. Second thing is low stress anxiety in your child. And already as a mother, as a therapist, that how you're going to work with your child, then he calm down. Create a calm environment, like I already told you. Set a routine for daily activity and follow that routine. Increase physical activity, which is very important, because you know what, parents are involved in these things all the time. They don't pay attention to the child, and child start doing this kind of self-indulgence thing. And a time came when the child is too much aloof. I mean, the child is sitting at the corner of the room and looking to the wall. So you need to think about that, like what you're doing with your child and how you can do. I mean, you can give this small activity to your child, and they can play. They can play with the toys and things like that. Set a routine, like I already told you. Redirect, encourage acceptable behavior. Gain support from teacher and carers. Like it could be teachers, it could be therapist also. Work with therapist, and like I am the one who believe in the model to work with the parent. So therapist, parent, and child. These three people are very important in the treatment model. And without talking to parents, without taking parental consent in what you are doing, not in the sense that I'm not saying that consent that doesn't mean that we are doing something bad with the child, but a parent should know that what you are doing and what is that is going to help the child. For example, I'm trying to I'm trying to work with a child that he might get independent. So whenever he go out and I give him bag, today his mother was saying it's heavy. I said no, it's okay. He can hold that bag because he was holding that bag. He was coming from the street. It means the child can hold that. So let him hold his bag and go to the car. So we are making the child more independent. Rule out the medical condition of swimming. Sometimes it could be because maybe the child got some kind of allergy, noise issue. Eyes, maybe eyesight weak. It could be a cause also. You need to think about that. Or maybe the child might scratch his skin so much that he got infection. So you have to look into these things and be patient and consistent, and whatever activity you're doing, there's another thing also. So you can also try intervene during an unsafe behavior, which is important. Knowing when not to respond. Sometimes it could be attention seeking behavior. So you just need to ignore that thing. Advising other family to know how to help them. And if you have a plan to ignore that activity, then you need to tell the parents that the family member, why are you doing certain thing. Reinforcing acceptable behavior. For example, the child might doing something good, arranging something. Why not you start put your child into sorting thing. In sorting, you're also arranging. So you are just complexing thing for the benefit of the child. So he might do something out of some learn something better out of it. Enforce acceptable behavior, like I told you, and creating safe environment for the child. Safe also means that sensory environment. Encourage safe stimming, and what it could do. Schedule stimming, that is very important. Give your child several stim breaks throughout the day, and encourage your child to treat them like private self-care appointment. Let me give you an example. For example, I'm working with a child who like to have that box, and we want to play with that box all the time. So when he's playing with that box, when I ask him something with that same box, he's not doing that activity. So what I do, I take that box from the child and I start doing other activity. And even I also use that box for certain activity. But I'm not letting that child to do what the way he want to use that activity. But when we are free and we are done with our, then I give that box to that child, and he's playing the way he want to play. So it is a kind of scheduling stimming. You know, you're giving a time out to the child. Framing stimming as a private activity, encourage your child to think of stimming as something people do alone because it could hurt or worry other people. It means that, let me give you an example. When I was working with a child and he start crying all the time, and he used to cry a lot. I mean, we don't know what to do with that child because um, I'm not the one who want a child not to express that child himself. So what I would say, we have a sensory room in our institution, and what I asked that child, if you want to cry, you will go in that room. I'm also sitting in that room. I'm sitting outside, okay, and you are in that room. And when you stop crying, then you can come out. This is our cry zone. This is our emotional zone. You have to do this activity over here. So the child learned that thing now. He would say, teacher, can I come out now? You know, that's the same child you asked about me. Teacher, I stopped crying. Can I come out now? So it's more like that. So search for replacement. If your child make loud grunting noise, try headphones with the loud music. If snapping and tapping cause classmate concern, try stress ball or tennis ball. Look for ways to help your child and and without harming self or other. Let your child tell you if your replacement work or not. If a child don't like that activity, then you can change the activity also. Also reduce stress and anxiety by creating a calm environment, promote routine and familiarity. Prepare your child for uncertain environment, like I told that you in the start, and increase physical activity help the child also. Then alter streaming behavior by allow acceptable behavior and deviate unacceptable behavior into something more fruitful. So that's all about today. I think that was a big presentation. Stop share.
That was very good.
We have 1 minute left.
So, Dr. Khan, good job. And do you want me to jump off and jump back in so we can do questions and answers? Or do you, I don't have a lot. I have maybe less than a minute. I don't know.
Okay. I think we can do this later on after
okay.
that session. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
See you in the
Thank
question
you.
answer session.
Bye, guys.